right. There. Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome to FESIG. This is our 37th meeting. Today is the 21st of June. And here we see on the screen a welcome slide. Welcome to FESIG, which is the Free Energy Special Interest Group. Today is our 37th meeting. It's on the 21st of June. And the meeting starts at 7:30, like 7:40 now, GMT. In the East Coast will be 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the West Coast will be about 11:30 GMT. So there we are, and most of you are from America. Hey, welcome, Miles. Miles here as well. Miles Johnston of the BASIS project in the UK. Kerry and Miles worked together at some point when Kerry's here in the UK. So here we have a Free Energy Special Interest Group. It is a platform for researchers, people who develop free energy, scientists, whoever is interested or enthusiastic about developing free energy is most welcome to the free for all platform to discuss, explore, share ideas on the development of the technology. We have been in existence for about 1.5 years now. We started in February 2016. And here we have the meeting agenda here, a quick presentation of FESIG, which I've just done. New members will be introducing themselves in a minute. And I'm the chairperson, Crystal Ball. So we have today a very special guest, Kerry Cassidy in person, who's the CEO, founder of Project Camelot, and she's a top pioneering whistleblower, testimony, investigative journalist, and documentarian. She's renowned for her radio talk show, host of Project Camelot, whistleblower radio, and TV broadcaster. She will talk about the US soldiers being deployed to Mars. I think Kerry possibly is the pioneering whistleblower journalist who had started talking about this many years ago. Possibly we will need to go into the SSP, the Secret Space Program, with her as well. And we can also explore AIs that she knows of through her many years of investigative journalism. And then we are going to talk about, ask questions about scalar frequencies as well, and the free energy technology and healing technologies. So, and then the rest of the team here in FESIG will join in the panel. And once we're finished, then we will adjourn to the next meeting on the 5th of July, where we have Elizabeth Donavan speaking. Elizabeth is a brilliant scientist, and she's researching the telomeres in physical age regression, as well as healing and regrowing parts and things like that. So it's pretty amazing, this group here in FESIG. Right, without much ado, I will, well, if you want to email me or contact me, this is my email address, crystal@truevisionofpeace.com, and FESIG sits on this domain name, True Vision of Peace. Okay, so thank you. Now I've got to stop sharing screen, but I actually need to introduce Kerry properly. Kerry is renowned in the light warrior, light worker community. She started way back in 2006, and that time with you, Ryan. And I was one of those few actually who have listened to her YouTubes, and Kerry's style of interviewing the whistleblowers is really quite amazing. And she has a knack of drawing out all the secrets that they wouldn't want to speak of, but she got around to that. And we were very grateful to you, Kerry, for bringing in so much information. We wouldn't be so aware and awake and and so knowledgeable, if not because of your work with Bill Ryan since those days. And I was like so amazed that within a few years you had 1 million viewers. Wow. I mean, from 2006 to 2009, I was keeping track on your work, really, and I'm very grateful what you've done. Yeah. So there you are, and you have actually achieved quite a lot there. I know that you are here in London, and you will be you will be having your conference on the Aware and Awake conference, which is going to be happening at Watford, London, just a few days' time on June the 24th, 25th. And Miles, would you like to talk about that? Because Miles, you'll be presenting some papers there as well, right? Miles is quite famous in his own right in the UK, doing investigative journalism with whistleblowers as well, especially on the basis. Right, Miles, there you go.
Well, I'm very happy to join the
Aware and Awake conference. Yeah,
the Aware and Awake conference on Sunday. I'll be doing it on Sunday. Unfortunately, I've got professional obligations on the Saturday. It's a fantastic venue, at High Elms Manor in Watford, and it's the second year of it. And Kerry does a really good job, and it's a good lot of people there, some very strong speakers, and it's really excellent.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Miles. So over to you now, Kerry. Would you come forth and
Sure. So hi everyone, I'm Kerry Cassidy, and I'm from Project Camelot, and let's see, I'm not sure what you want me to actually talk about exactly, but you said something about people from Mars or going to Mars and all that. I see that your specialty seems to be sort of in the direction of the technology, it looks like, free energy and so on, if I understand the group that you've got there. I don't have a specially prepared presentation here. I think that opening it up to your group to ask me questions would be a great way to go. I can tell you that I've been doing Project Camelot for about 11.5 years now, and spent the first 3 years with a partner called Bill Ryan. And then after that, we parted ways. And so for the past 9.5 years, I've been working on Project Camelot on my own. Bill and I had sort of a parting of ways at, some things that we didn't agree on. So like all people, it's not always easy to agree on everything. And sorry, you're actually taking my light away. Could you please not do that? Thank you. So stop. Thank you. Okay, so anyway, I just wanted to say that, I have several whistleblowers who have talked about going to Mars. Of course, the first one was Henry Deacon, who came out under his own name, Arthur Neumann, in the early days of Project Camelot, and that was about a year after we were in operation, and that might have actually been even less than that. And he is a very fascinating whistleblower. He first came out, he wouldn't go on camera, and he would not use his real name. He also used technology to try to safeguard his testimony to us. He wouldn't let us take notes or anything. So we had to basically recall what he had to say and then put it out to report to our audience. We did hit the ground running with Project Camelot, and actually to this day now, we have about 51 million viewers, and we actually have 165,000 around that subscribers. And we are growing every day, every week. In fact, we're going up in the millions now every 6 months or so. I will say that we were also taken down after 1 year of operation off of YouTube completely. Someone deleted our entire library off of that we've done up to that time. And so that's important to know if you want to look at things like stats. Now, the other thing with Project Camelot is that a lot of our videos are, in essence, stolen and re-uploaded to many YouTube channels, and people are making whole sites out of them. So we are just everywhere, and it's a good thing, you know, on the one hand, and it also cuts into our ability to make any money. So we rely on donations. So appreciate it. People want to share our links. We do appreciate that. We would ask that people not download our videos and then re-upload them to YouTube and take the views away from Camelot, because this is really one of the only ways we can make any money is from advertising, and they've got a real monopoly on that situation as it happens. So as far as our whistleblowers, as I say, Henry Deacon did go on stage to say that he had been working on Mars, and he was what you call a cross-disciplinary scientist working for a number of organizations, among them Lawrence Livermore Labs and several others that I'm not really at liberty to name. He's a wonderful man, a very fascinating individual. He actually spoke at one of my conferences. He eventually came out under his real name. He went on stage initially to defend another whistleblower called Brian O'Leary, who was an ex-Mars astronaut who was slated to go to Mars as an astronaut. That program back in the 60s, I believe it was canceled, but nonetheless he trained to be an astronaut. He himself, Brian O'Leary, was a scientist and a very well-respected one who taught at places like Caltech, for example, where later they tried to disappear his records and to pretend that he never worked for them or taught at their school. He is a brilliant guy, and he had left the United States because he felt he was they were trying to kill him. He had an incident in which he believes he knows who was responsible, and I'm not going to name that name, but I do know who he thought it was. He retired to Vilcabamba, which is a place in Ecuador up in the mountains, and continued to investigate and interview free energy activists and inventors. And if you've never read any of Brian O'Leary's books, in which he traveled the world interviewing free energy activists, I highly recommend that you do so. He has passed on. He was actually in our television pilot that was made for True TV, supposedly as a sister piece, if you want to call it that, to the Jesse Ventura conspiracy theory show. We were the following act that was supposed to talk about the ETs that Jesse didn't want to talk about. And they shot a pilot with us, myself and Bill Ryan, back in 2009. And then they refused to advertise it, and they basically aired it one Friday without prior advertising or letting us know. Luckily, we had some very dedicated Camelot followers who gave us the heads up, who were subscribers to True TV, and told us it was going to be aired. So we did get quite an audience at the time, drumming up the audience ourselves, as the network would not advertise it because obviously they didn't want the word out. We co-produced it, and a lot of the witnesses were Project Camelot witnesses and whistleblowers, including Bob Dean, Gordon Novell, and many others. And it's now available on my YouTube channel. It's called Shadow Operations, and if you do a search, you should be able to find it there. So my YouTube channel is, as I say, you know, highly viewed, and we have, well, I have at this point over 500, about 550 interviews in video on that channel that you can watch. And I've also done what was in you know, several years ago, I did a whistleblower radio show on various stations for about 3 to 5 years. And so all of those shows, many of them have disappeared. I'm not sure why, and they were sort of deleted off our server as well as off the radio stations. But we have some left, and we have those audio files, and you can search on my website, projectcamelotportal.com, for those old shows, of which there are many, and very excellent guests as always. So I've been in the sector now for a long time. The people that I'm interviewing are often putting their lives in danger to come forward and talk about what really happened to them. At this time, we have very few real whistleblowers hitting the scene. A lot of the whistleblowers who are coming forward are oftentimes misleading people, unfortunately, but there are some good people out there. So, you know, you just have to do your homework and really, examine the data that comes forward. Of course, this sector is highly infiltrated by the NSA and surveillance and the CIA and all of the, what you call the alphabet agencies, as well as the military. But we do have our supporters, and I've been told that my interviews are viewed in the halls of the CIA, and some of them are quite popular. And also at the NOAA, NOAA as it's called, as well as other places. So that's kind of a short introduction. I will say that Henry Deacon, when he came out under his own name, Arthur Neumann, he went on stage in Barcelona at the Exopolitics conference at the end of a presentation by Bob Dean, the wonderful Bob Dean, who I've interviewed probably five or six times, and is a very, very well-respected whistleblower who had been talking about Mars and our base on Mars and so on. So at the end of that, Henry Deacon did come up on stage. I accompanied him. He did tell the audience of about 1,500 people that he'd been working on Mars. And at that point, he said very little. And the organizers of the conference, who were supposed to be interested in disclosing the truth and who had invited and paid his way to get there, actually told him and me to leave the stage and shut up. So this is what you get. You get some very suspicious goings on when you get involved in conferences that are put on in the sector, and many of the people are working what we call both sides. Some people with good reason, they believe in national security for their country and so on. Sometimes they're interested in, working with the liaisons with various ET races that those militaries have deals with and so on. So the reasons may be varied, but oftentimes you do get a lot of people who are playing sort of two sides of the street. Camelot tries to get the truth out at all costs. And my first loyalty, if you may call it that, is to the audience. In other words, to the people, to make sure that the people are awake and aware, and also to protect the whistleblowers that I interview. One of the parting ways that I had with Bill Ryan is that he chose to out certain whistleblowers. He was basically really, going against a confidence that they had made with him. So that was a big bone of contention, you might call it that. And I have kept my word with all whistleblowers, and think that's really important to protect them and their families. As far as other, people, I mean, I've interviewed free energy activists as well. You may know that I've interviewed Kesh, MT Kesh, as I understand your group was quite, involved with him at least one time. And I've also done a recent interview with him. I don't necessarily agree with him on everything. And certainly his technology is not completely vetted for the world, because it does involve some actually, you might say, philosophical issues, spiritual issues, which I don't know, how far down this road you've gone, but of course there are many spiritual issues involved with what is known as zero-point energy. And I also interviewed Ralph Ring many years ago, who worked with Otis C. Carr, and we have quite an expose on all of that on my website. Ralph Ring and Otis Carr basically created I guess you might call it a reverse engineered UFO, and they did fly it, in essence time traveled with it from one part of the country to another. And they got out, they put dirt in their pockets from where they were, and then they actually time traveled back. And they documented this, then they took it to, I think it was General Motors, if I got that right. And basically the guy, when he was told about it, said, if you put them up, we'll shoot them down about the UFOs. So General Motors or General Electric, all these companies, both companies or corporations, but anyway, they often are working against getting this information out there, as you can appreciate, because they're looking at the bottom line. So they're trying to halt any progress in this area. So it's a big, you know, sort of war of worlds at this time. A lot of this information is coming out there. Free energy activists and inventors are often highly surveilled. Some have been killed outright. Some have just found it very hard to sort of survive, and so on. So I'm pretty well versed in all of that, and I have a list of people that we have talked to, et cetera, that I can kind of go through for you if you're interested. But what I'd like to do is open the floor for questions to see what you're interested in, and then I can address it from the Camelot perspective.
Thank you, Kerry. Well, your videos are very popular, and I'm sure everyone here who's attending the meeting right now is very familiar with the information that you have brought forth from the work that you do with the whistleblowers. And I'm sure they can't wait to ask you the questions they've always been mulling over in their minds. We didn't have a chance to ask you live, personally, face-to-face. Now they have, right? But before I let them have the chance to do so, well, I think I owe it to myself to ask you a few questions as well, because I've been wanting to do that. And I kept it until now to ask you. Didn't want to ask you when you were talking privately on Skype. Well, you were talking about the Scalar wave with this cat. And he was brushing it off as the nanotech is actually part of our makeup of a human body. And you were saying that I think you did mention something like the Scalar wave being maybe harmful because it could be prying into the mind as well. Apart from, hang on, let me see. Okay, it was Bearden who first came out with this, the scalar frequency technology, and was pushing the medical effects of scalar waves as early as 1991. And he then made it very popular in the free energy technology platform. And then, but apparently they are also useful in mind control. So, Kerry, would you want to go into more detail about this, the scalar frequency types that you have experienced with the other whistleblowers on the free energy front?
Well, you know, scalar technologies are not talked about a lot by our whistleblowers. There is, of course, Tom Bearden's work, which is very important in this regard. You know, I can say that I'm aware of particle beam weapons, and that there is also the ability using these technologies, which I guess involve what we call long waves versus short waves, and so on, and also creating vortexes. So I'm an intuitive, and I go at this sort of thing more from an intuitive point of view than from a technical scientific point of view. So I'm not really the person to address the nature of scalar weapons necessarily, but I can say that we certainly know that the Secret Space Program has used it and is using it extensively, and we can say they're using what are called particle beam weapons as well. And I have evidence that some of the linear accelerators, such as Brookhaven Labs, have been using particle beam weapons, and that it's very, you know, possible that this is something that CERN is also involved in. So there is something to do with changing the space-time continuum using some of these these weapons that can also be used, you know, to target somebody or something of that nature. So again, I'm not a scientist, so, you know, I can interview somebody and ask them the good questions, but I'm not somebody to talk extensively on this type of subject.
It's okay, because this is a meeting, so it's like a roundtable discussion. Apparently, when Bearden first popularized the scalar wave technology, he specifically attributed their powers to cure AIDS, cancer, and genetic diseases with their quantum effects. So I guess that's the direction where Cash was going with his Cash Foundation followers, you know, making those nano tech stuff, you know, the GANs and all that. Well, but you on Kerry, on the 11th of May 2015, you reported that you had been the victim of a sinister government plot to kill you using scalar weapons. Would you be able to say something about this?
Well, I was on my way to interview a whistleblower, Mark Richards, in prison. This was, I think, my fourth time. I'm not sure, because what happened is they tried to stop me by hitting me on the side of the head with what appeared to be scalar weaponry. Now, I don't know this for a fact, in the sense that I know I was hit by something and I know the results of it. And I also know that, you know, I went to sleep at night and then woke up in the morning, and I had the right side of my face was sort of frozen. And it took me a long time to get the muscles to work again in the right way. And I had a lot of massage and acupuncture to help me do that, and meditation as well. I still have some issues with my right eye, actually, from this, that from time to time, it's quite sensitive to light and so on. But I had 4 independent psychics who told me, who were not aware of each other, that I was hit by a scalar weapon. And I also had my own intuitive download, which told me that. So that's the information I got. Now, I was in Palo Alto, California, where I was born, as it happens. I was actually born in Palo Alto in Moffett Field Hospital, which is a military hospital. And I do believe that at this juncture, I have enough information to tell me that I was what you call MyLab, and have a long history that I'm actually putting to a book. So I'm not going to go into that, but suffice to say that, you know, people are being targeted by scalar weapons. How they work and why they work, I can't tell you exactly. I can tell you that I have done some research in this regard that tells me that, strangely enough, we ourselves can create a scalar field and actually send out a scalar energy pulse, I guess, if you will. So in a sense, if you know enough about it, you could actually, in theory, not only defend yourself from it, but you could also send it back to the people who sent it. So human beings are amazing, and there are many of our skills and abilities that we are not aware of at this time. So it's important to know that we're not victims. And at the time when this happened to me, I was in a vulnerable situation. You know, if you're away from home, you're more vulnerable to sort of attacks. And the other thing had to do with that, you know, my health was very low at that point. I had been working very hard on trying to create a television channel in addition to my Project Camelot. And that actually failed. We couldn't raise the money to really get that off the ground all that much. We did end up doing it for free and created this PCTV channel, which is still operational, but we only have a couple people left on it, because I did have a producer who produced those people for a while, and I was doing, you know, putting my videos there as well. But ultimately, it's kind of winding down now because we just couldn't get the funding and support, you know, the manpower or woman power that we could, you know, that we would need to.
Amazing. You use your inheritance money to bring up Project Camelot. since you started in 2006 until you ran out of money on 2012, right? So folks, do donate to Kerry to let her, allow her to continue with her good work.
Actually, we didn't run out of money in 2012. Actually, what happened was the first 2 years of Camelot, I had an inheritance from my mother who passed on, and that's what we're living and working on, and allowed us to travel the world to go see, interview whistleblowers.
Oh, sorry.
So that's where we got whistleblowers at that time.
Right.
And then eventually, when that money was gone, we turned it over to asking people for donations, and people came forward in a really amazing way, and that has supported me this entire time, kept Camelot going.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes it's very iffy as to whether I'll pay my rent or not. But so far so good. And sometimes, you know, lately that the YouTube channel, we're putting more ads on our YouTube. We learned how to, you know, add more ads, and so you make more money and all that kind of thing. So it's a little bit better than it was, and the donations are still coming in. Doing conferences like I do when I do a small conference, sometimes I'll make some money on that. It won't be a huge amount. But yeah, so actually, just to correct the record.
Yeah, talking about, you know, you using your inheritance money and all that, you've also, according to Bill Ryan, when he was speaking with you that time, he was coming up telling people that you've lost $116,000 by investing it with Sean,
That's right.
David Morton in March 2014. Oh, Kerry, what happened?
Not in that, well, I mean, Bill might have talked about it then. That's not when it happened. It happened a long time ago. You know, as I say, Bill and I parted ways after only 3 years of working together. And actually the third year was not, we were not working, you know, very closely together at that time either. So it's actually something that happened in, like, I don't know, the second year of Camelot's operation, or even first, when Sean David Morton's a very good friend of mine. He's been on my show a number of times. Tina's wife, Melissa, started this fund. You can watch my latest interview with him. He actually outlines what happened with that fund. It was targeted, and he is not at fault for why it ended up, you know, what they did was that left a position open. So first they made a lot of money, and then it all got lost. It, you know, was all gone.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's a long saga, but yeah, I did invest, you know, and I did lose half of my inheritance there.
Oh,
absolutely.
And apparently Sean was
live and learn.
A convicted felon, and he was found guilty on the 7th of April, just this year. Apparently, and then he didn't turn up in court. It's just a few days ago, and a federal warrant for his arrest was issued. But I saw your interview with him.
Yeah, I just interviewed him like a couple days ago. So if you really want the up-to-date story, you should go to my interview with Sean David Morton.
I was listening to it until our meeting starts now. So, okay, I'll go back to listen to it more. Thanks, Kerry. All right, then. I think it's not fair that I've been monopolizing the question and answer. Right, it's open to the floor.
Okay.
So we have 12 people here, all eager to ask you questions. Okay, so open to the table, the round table now. Anybody wants to start?
Yeah, Kerry, sorry.
Go ahead.
It's our scientist.
Kerry, as you know, you're appearing in Ireland. There's a Braces Dublin conference by a bunch of really good people in Ireland, and there is a key new kid on the block, so to speak, that very few people would have heard of. His name is Eamon Ansborough, and he has been talking to the SETI Institute as opposed to Stephen Greer's CSETI, and he is talking scalar communications devices with interdimensional, the term extraterrestrial being a very severe, bad term, but he is an Irish astronomer. He's been working on CE5 for many, many years before the term even came up, with European UFO agencies and things, and he located his observatory in Ireland specifically to actually deal with ET, so to speak. But he will be there in Dublin, and you can, I'm sure you'll be able to interview him. You're going to be there in person as well. But Eamon is actually talking real science communication with off-world people using Scalar communications devices.
Well, that's lovely. I certainly would like to talk to him. You know, I feel that I am in touch with many ET races anyway, and I've had a number of, you know, sort of interesting encounters myself, as well as I'm, you know, I believe I'm in touch with what are called the guardian races, and the reason I'm even aware of that is because I accompanied Ashiana Dean to India, and during that time on, you know, as I've said other places, while I was on the bus or wherever we were, I was getting downloads that before she would speak, I would get the information coming to me as well. So I became very aware of that during that time and had a number of interesting experiences on that trip. I can say that, you know, signal non-locality and indicates as well as remote viewing, as well as sort of our psychic abilities as telepathic psychic. We are like antennas in a sense here on Earth, and we can communicate with off-planet races very easily, and we do on a regular basis. In fact, it's my view that we are a hybrid race and that we share the DNA with many of these off-planet races. Many of, you know, they may be underground Earth, they may be interdimensional, going interdimensional as most of them are. And many of them also, there are some in inner Earth. There are so many different races and different, you know, kinds of beings. So, but I do believe that we ourselves can directly communicate with ETs. So thank you, Miles, that's wonderful. I'm happy to talk to him, to hear what he's up to. There are so many races, they may be using this technology, specifically a certain kind of race even, to communicate. So, you know, all these different kinds of beings, you know, you can't put them all in one basket and say they're all going to speak English, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, you know, so I appreciate that.
I think from a general public's point of view, scalar means it's not limited to the speed of light. So this whole ballyhoo that the Einstein rubbish that they put out at us, to sort of tell us it can't be done. He's an astronomer who's talking ET. And so he's in there with the astronomers talking the kind of language that we do. He just doesn't use the term UFO, but he did a lot of UFO stuff, heavy stuff in Ireland in the early 90s, big stuff in the southwest of Ireland. There's a sort of an area 51 off to the coast,
Miles,
200 miles off the coast.
we're going to get you back.
The southwest of Ireland.
Okay?
Yep.
We're going to get you back to FESIG,
Also,
on the Blackgoo and all that, right? Yeah. It's
lovely to hear. And, you know, I do want to say that when I come to Ireland, which I love Ireland, I love the Irish people, I just want to say, because they have such an amazing spirit, and I've seen it demonstrated time and time again, and they have a real drive for freedom and for speaking out about what they care about. So I do want to say that Maria Wheatley and myself are putting together like a very short 2-day, possibly, you know, going to some ancient sites right in the general area near the conference, so that we can take some people around and do that. We just got back from doing this in the UK, and it was highly successful and fascinating, really fascinating time. So we hope to do that again right before the conference, Miles, and you know, so just wanted to let people know.
Kerry, on the note of us being hybrids, you were talking to Cash, and you popped him this very question that threw him a bit. Are you with the Pleiadians? No, sorry, are you a reptilian? Are you working with the reptilian? Does it mean that you had some information that he's got something to do with the reptilians, or he's part reptilian himself?
You know, I don't think I asked him that question. I think that was probably one of the questions from the chat. Because normally I won't try to, you know, put somebody on the spot quite that way by saying, you know, are you this? Again, because I feel we're a hybrid race, I don't think that would be fair. But I would say that, you know, there are many races out there. There are some things that it became evident then when I was talking to Cash that we don't necessarily agree on. And so, you know, if you watch the video, you can kind of get those places where he might, would contradict me or something, or I might say something else. It's not necessary that we agree. I don't have to agree with the people I interview. You know, I just find it fascinating to have the discussion, to delve into it. So as far as whether Cash is, you know, from the reptilian race or one of those or not, or whether, you know, or many other races he may be a member of or consider himself a member of, you know, I won't say, and I can't say at the moment.
Oh, we love your interview. You did so well with them.
Thank you.
Anyway, hey, come on. It's open to the floor now. Whoever wants to ask Kerry some questions, go ahead. I will unmute you if you just raise your hand, or you can unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear? This is Praz.
Yes, correct. Go ahead.
Basically, from the scientific side of the discussion here, and I realize that isn't your forte, but some of the people that are viewing your videos that are fairly new to the Project Camelot, it seems that there's maybe two underlying stories on either aliens or other entities or people that are running a sub-story to what we know as, quote, we think is truth in our day-to-day lives. And I went through and took a look at about 4 different videos quickly before today. And one was from David Curtis and then Randy Kramer. The one that was interesting to me was the alien agenda. And I followed up with Sean Martin. The alien agenda, his interview, it seemed like he was talking like there could be two stories, like if there's an alien excuse or to cover up the, let's say, the hidden government, which may be just lying people, you know, people that are conniving for power and for wealth. And I was wondering, with the Project Camelot, with the number of interviews you've done, what are some of the underlying feelings that you've gotten dealing with, is it alien or is it just plain human traits that are causing the problems here on Earth? So I'll back up.
Thanks for the question. It sounds like you haven't really grazed the surface of the work. So I appreciate the ones that you have taken some time to look at. I can say that there's so much evidence that we are not alone, and basically that we have never been alone. And, I have so many whistleblower testimonies that coincide on certain things that you start to get a big picture of what's really going on. And I can tell you that there is a secret space program, that the problems here on Earth are problems off the planet as well. So as above, so below. And that many of, as I say, we are actually a hybrid race of at least 12 ET races. And that means our DNA is made up of off-planet beings, DNA. And that also means that we have some of their potential skills and gifts, if you will. And this is why we are such a varied a melting pot of races and of skills and abilities and so on here on planet Earth. So that's the good side of the story. The more negative side is that some of those races are what you call service to self, and some are service to others. So that would be sort of a dividing line between the two kinds of races out there that we're dealing with. The Secret Space Program has a reason to exist, which has to do with defending planet Earth and humanity from the dark side races, etc. there is also a very dark side to the secret space program that has been infiltrated by liaisons with races like the reptilians and the greys and other visiting races that do not have our best interests at heart, do not want humanity to develop on their own and to go down the path of enlightenment and reaching, ascension, etc. here on this planet. They close the war that you see here on the planet Earth is surrounding a war over the stargates. Predominantly, that is what the wars are about and have been for eons and eons here on planet Earth. So why the stargates? Because they're portals to travel, to and from this planet and the sector. And the Earth is also a jumping off point to other parts of the galaxies and so on. So it's quite a complex picture. I can't possibly address all of it here now, but in trying to answer your question as sort of simply as possible, that's what I would say.
Kerry,
I have a question.
Hang on, Tom. We have James Rink here with us, and James on the Secret Space Program. James is the supersoldiertalk.com ringleader, where he brings all these super soldiers together in his portal. So James, you wanna talk to Kerry about Peter Bearden of ACIO. Kerry, you wanna discuss that with James? James, I've unmuted you.
Are you saying that James wants to ask me a question? I'm not sure what.
James?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go
Okay,
ahead.
yeah. Kerry, so have you seen any of the episodes I did with Peter, the insider at the ACIO?
No, I haven't. I'd be glad to take a look. Sorry about that. How you doing? Haven't seen you in a long time.
Yeah, likewise.
We met when I interviewed Max Spears and Michael Prince one day at the Secret Soldier conference in, I think it was Vegas.
Yeah.
Benton did.
Uh-huh.
So, and that was quite an interesting story. And after that, actually, eventually, I was threatened by Michael, but nonetheless. And
now he's in jail.
Max.
Apparently, unless Miles can give us an update about that. Yeah.
As far as the ACIO, I was one of the few people who was able to interview the creator of Wingmakers. And wingmakers.com is a multimedia website that does have a book called The Ancient Arrow Project, which outlined what was in essence a whistleblower and his sort of escape from the secret space program. And I believe that in essence, those Neruda interviews are in essence what James's background is. And I did interview him in depth, but he only did it over, in writing. So you can go on to Camelot to see those interviews. It's quite a long, in-depth conversation all about Wingmakers, etc. And I also became the representative to shop that story to the Hollywood community. Steven Spielberg was already aware of the project. I did bring it to Kathleen Kennedy, who worked for Steven Spielberg back in the days in doing development. And I also brought it to Ridley Scott and to James Cameron's development person, etc. And at that time, they all passed on it. I can tell you that the ACIO is kind of a diabolical, dark side of the secret space program. And they're very involved with a certain race of beings who are not necessarily considered positive. But that's my take on it. I'd be happy to hear what your, interviewee, I don't know this person, but happy to.
Yeah. He didn't claim that he didn't claim he's number 15, right, James? Peter didn't claim.
What's the question?
Peter didn't claim his number 15 of ACIO, of the Wingmakers.
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're saying. Are you saying, I am not saying anybody was number 15. I don't know what you mean.
Okay, No, there is a number 15 who was the controller, or rather the CEO of ACIO from the Wingmakers material. And James, did he say that he is the number 15?
No, he's not. He's a head of division number 12. Yeah, it has nothing to do with the Wingmakers. But I do agree with you, Kerry. Certainly, Division 6 of the ACIO is the Men in Black. And the other divisions don't really like them, but they tolerate them because I guess they have their purpose. And that's what actually causes the Mandela effect, is when people get neuralized by the MIB. But I do want to comment that apparently, according to the ACIO, they claim that there's an organization called Monarch Solutions, which works with some other organizations from another parallel universe, which is going to basically cause an EMP attack on the United States and attempt to do a takeover. And at that point, the ACIO claims that either this group of Nazis from another parallel universe will be infiltrating and trying to take us over, or and that's when a group of the clone super soldier army will supposedly be brought out to the public to defend humanity from this hostile takeover. But yeah, the story is very complex. But essentially,
I mean, it sounds kind of fun, like a sci-fi story. But you know, I would say first of all, we're already being taken over by Nazis, so that they'll be a little late to the game on that one. But as far as, you know, what's coming from a parallel universe, it's not out of the question that we can be invaded at any time from parallel universes and so on. So it's going to be very hard to vet the information. That's the only thing I'm going to say about
verify.
that.
Yeah, exactly.
So I will have to see who is the person saying this information, and happy to take a look at all of it.
Yeah, well, just briefly, without taking a lot of your time, apparently the Nordics were the ones who were behind the Nazis, and the Nordics were extremely racist, and they were...
The Nordics, you can't even use that term, because Nordics is a huge branch of many races. So just because they're tall and blonde, and also, you know, a lot of races nowadays, because Nordics are the accepted brand, will parade themselves as Nordics when in fact they don't look anything like a Nordic.
Right. Well,
and so which Nordic are you talking about? Because I can tell you the Nazis worked with the group from Aldebaran. That's
yeah, it's at the Vril Secret Society.
And
Maria Ostrich.
And yes, and those would be parading themselves as blonde and tall and looking Nordic, for one thing. There was also another race, of course, of out and out reptilians, and there's some question as to there's no doubt I can say that the beings that the Nazis were working with had what they call a fascist view of the way to run society. And, you know, so you're right in that regard, but I would specify that it is this group from Aldebaran, and, you know, so it's a certain group of Nordics.
Yeah. Well, just briefly, I want to say that apparently this group of Nordics have in this parallel universe where the Nazis won World War II, the Nordics has instructed them to annex us. So they want to finish the job. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because the powers that be that have been suppressing the technology on this planet and holding back humanity have done a major disservice, because now humanity does not have the means to defend themselves against this aggressor. So we are, in my opinion, on the most positive timeline where we can tolerate different races and cultures and backgrounds and so on. And so I don't think this is going to be successful, and that's when the super soldiers will be taken into the public. But it should be all exciting, and we'll probably see it before December comes on.
All right. Well, I'll take a look, but I can tell you that I have reported on from a number of whistleblowers, including, by the way, in case you're not aware of it, Gordon Duff from Veterans Today, who talks about the races really from Aldebaran again. Coming in, they had destroyed 2 of their own planets through war. they've come to Earth in order to, they were depicted in a television series called The Event, which I've mentioned numerous times, and you can get it on Netflix and watch it for free. That was basically telling the story, trying to, you know, be, hiding in sight, as you may say. And that indeed they have sold off a large portions of Africa apparently to these beings from Aldebaran, and also to what are called the reptoids. So it sounds like you're getting something that's coming, but in reality, it's already here. And yes, indeed, super soldiers are supposed to defend sacred ground and defend humanity. That's absolutely their job.
Kerry, coming back to the Wingmakers, James in the Wingmakers, is he Mahu Nahi, the head of the Courtians?
I'm sorry, didn't understand the question.
He was saying that there were different sections of ETs coming in to, well, you know, to negotiate for stuff, well, from humanity. And apparently there is a person by the name of Mahu Nahi who is the head of the Courtians. And apparently he's not to be trusted as much as the Greys are not to be trusted. So what's your take on that, Kerry, since you know him personally and you've been talking to him?
I'm not sure who is this person I'm supposed to know and be talking to, because I don't think I know and talk to this person.
The Wingmakers of the ACIO?
James of the Wingmakers was a whistleblower. His name would have been Neruda. That's the name he chose. He certainly was not the head of the Courtium. No. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. You answered my question. Right. Oh, we have Etienne here with us. Etienne is the FESIG protector, and he's very psychic clairvoyant, and he remembers he's the first commander of Orion. Etienne, do you want to speak to Kerry?
Hey there.
Hi.
Yeah, I missed the beginning of the call. I was on the call with the client.
Where are you now, Etienne?
In Playa del Carmen, Mexico. Yeah. Yeah, and he. Yeah. So what could you just quickly summarize the context of what you've been talking about so far, so I can just catch up with with where we're at.
No, it's okay. We are on the question and answer session with Kerry.
Okay.
Well, you know, we all can catch up with what Kerry's working on anyway, because if you go to Project Camelot's website, if you go to True Vision of Peace website, let me show True Vision of Peace website, share screen, and I'll show you. I have Kerry's links here, okay? So every one of you can actually go.
Yeah, my link is very easy to find. It's projectcamelotportal.com, and I highly recommend it. You should watch my YouTube videos. I have over 550 YouTube videos on my YouTube channel. You know, thank you. So anyway, yeah, we've been talking about a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Really, ET interactions with the Secret Space Program, off-planet visitors, and as well as some of our people that are going off-planet. And
hang on, Kerry. I'm going to stop sharing, but before I do that, I just want to tell listeners and viewers out there, when you're watching this video, you can go to Kerry's website just by clicking Project Camelot here. It's a live link. projectcamelot.org, projectcamelot.portal.com, so it's all here. And if you want to join her in the next few days to attend her Aware and Awake conference, where Miles will be speaking in as well, just click on this link and it takes you there, okay?
And yeah, I have a question. So do you have up-to-date information about what's been happening lately in these programs?
Yes, but you would need to ask me a bit more of a specific question.
Yeah.
what's going on in the programs is you know, a huge amount of stuff. So not sure.
I've been interacting with like all these ET groups and all of that, like on a psychic level, because there's been a big astral warfare. Lately, I haven't had much. I mean, like couple of maybe foreign groups trying to cause interference here and there, and gets resolved pretty quickly. I haven't felt their presence too much lately. So I'm not too sure what's going on, but I expect them to have gotten beaten back pretty badly. But I haven't heard much about it lately.
You haven't heard much about what?
Yeah, like about how the secret space programs are evolving, and whether they're still a threat or it's like.
Well, the secret space program is not a threat per se. It's that there are very dark forces within it that may be a threat to humanity, but there are also some very well-intentioned people that want to defend humanity and Earth against negative ETs. Yeah,
well, there are also different space programs. So some of them are controlled by negative agendas, others are more positive.
Yes, but you know, I think that whereas there are other governments that are, let's say, trying to have secret space programs, I don't think they're as well developed as the primary one that is basically a coalition between, you know, countries like Britain and Russia. China has certainly got their own secret space program they're working on. India is trying to be a bit independent, but I think they're also working with the US. I mean, in other words, it's like politics here on planet Earth. It's complex, and
so
they may want you to think they have a secret space program that's independent, but in all likelihood, they're working together.
Okay, so if I was to say that the secret space program, the darker, darker and more corrupt agents have lost power, and the more those with more integrity, like are more like have more influence in this program, would that feel accurate about what's going on?
I don't know. I'm not so sure about that, actually. I'm not a person who thinks that, you know, the battle's over and you can just relax and go home. I think that the battle is very ongoing. We have many challenges. We have a number of invasionary species at this time coming into Earth, as well as in what is in essence will result in what one might call the battle of AI. So it is a time, in my view, to be very vigilant, to be as strong as possible in your health, in your vibration, and to try to be as awake and aware as possible and as knowledgeable as possible. And also tune in using meditation on a daily basis.
Right. On the.
Oh, it's not. It's like doesn't seem to be affecting my own personal path. So it doesn't seem to threaten like the overall path of evolution. But there's a lot of stuff that's going to be going on. There's going to be a lot of chaos ahead, all kind of things. But from what I feel, doesn't seem to be like a threat on the larger picture. Otherwise, I would feel it in my energy.
You know, ultimately, I'm very positive about the sort of journey of humanity, and that this seeding of humanity, as we call it, will succeed. I do think that there's quite a mixed bag among humanity at this time. Many races coming in, many young children that are hybrids, gray human hybrids, for example, that will change the equation of what's going on here on Earth. But by and large, I think if you have a good, solid soul, you could easily be on what you call an ascension pathway. And regardless of what goes on here, the drama being played out, you still will succeed.
Right. Okay. I would like to say this, Kerry. When it comes to the secret space program, because of what we've been hearing all around this information or disinformation, whatever, that the cabal has been rounded up and that they're losing the battle, and that the secret space program will come to an end. And James has got information, the James Rink, and he's saying that by 2019, there won't be any more of the secret space program. And so therefore, here in FESIG, we are thinking, if that's the case, then we would like to have those technologies to release to humanity for the benefit of humanity, to free humanity, if that's possible. From your end of the whistleblowers information, what's your take on that, Kerry? What do you think?
The battle will not be over by 2019 by any means. I understand that it will probably go on quite possibly until the 2525 or 2560 or whatever. These are just years. It's not clear how things will play out. You must keep in mind that the Earth at this time is what we call a 3D planet. It is a system of polarities, and as such, you're always going to have a sort of negative and a positive side. The only way you would get away from all of that is if all of humanity ascends and all of the Earth ascends into a much higher dimension, and I'm talking above the 6th dimension, not just the 5th. And even then, it's probably going to have some degree of polarity going on. My understanding is that this sort of game that we're involved in, having to do with a manifestation and learning and expanding and growing and representing, in essence, Godhead on Earth, is an ongoing drama, if you will. And so I would say that I am not one of those people who believe that the ETs are coming in and going to make everything all right for humans and everything's going to be fine. In fact, any ETs that tell you that are basically from the dark side. So that you need to keep your own sovereignty, try to be as awake and aware as possible. You're responsible for your own soul and your soul transition into other realms.
Yeah, and I want to add a comment on what you're saying here. It's very important that the reason ETs cannot show right now is because the great majority of the population now is in victim savior relationships. Like they feel they're a victim instead of embracing their power, and they're looking for a savior. And if ETs show up right now, that would amplify the problem.
Sure, that's true. That's part of the problem, yes. But I have to say that many ETs are working to communicate with humans.
Yes.
They have chosen to do on a one-on-one basis.
Help is more happening, yes, on the astral level, through guidance, through energetic support,
yes,
but not coming in physically.
Okay, so is there any other question from anybody else? Oh, Tom Van Kulen was going to ask you some questions. Tom, where are you? Tom Van Kulen.
I think he's gone.
Tom Van Kulen? He's gone.
I'm just going to open this a bit because my light is going away. It's getting darker.
Okay. Oh, we have Elizabeth here as well. Elizabeth? Are you there?
Oh, hi.
Hi. Elizabeth,
Hi.
do you want to ask Kerry some questions? Here we have a brilliant scientist, and Elizabeth Donavan, and she's researching, developing healing technologies in the realms of the telomeres. She will be our next speaker for the 5th of July. And here we have scientists who are very special because they are aware and awakened, where science and spirituality meet. This is the platform. Elizabeth, you want to say something?
Oh, well, as far as the scalar technologies, if you take a look at Bearden's provisional patent, I mean, that's the one that really explains how the healing mechanisms work. So, and I mean, we've tested that and it does work. So essentially, if you combine that one with the priori, patent, that's Antoine Prieuré from France, then you can get a really interesting combination. And it accelerates the healing process up to tenfold. So minimally tenfold. It's based on the amount of power you're putting into it too. So
okay, this sounds like some kind of technology.
oh yeah, it's a combination of modulated plasma and rotating acoustic fields, which is what Prieuré did, and then locking that into the biofield of whoever you're healing. So it has to be matched to it.
Okay.
So anyway, it does work. I mean, that's one thing that we've tested, and it does work.
Can you build one, Elizabeth?
Already built one. It works.
Do you sell them? Can we buy one?
No, not yet. We don't want to get in that much trouble.
Well, perhaps you can heal some of your friends then and demonstrate.
Yeah, and we're using it on ourselves, and it zaps out a migraine within 2 minutes. So.
Right.
Perhaps you can program some water and sell that. Would that work?
That's an interesting point. We haven't tried that. And the next step, of course, would be to get a dark field scope and see what it's actually doing to the tissue, like the blood. And I suspect that it is having an effect on the molecular scale. Etienne, I think, is wanting to ask a question. Okay.
So if there's no more questions, then thank you for having me on your show.
I have one more question.
Okay.
What do you think of Michael Tellinger? Because I have a friend who knows a friend who recently visited South Africa and claims that the Ubuntu community is a huge scam that's being used to embezzle money. Can you comment about any of that?
You know, I went to South Africa. I've been there like 4 times. I did a documentary on Michael Tellinger and on the Stone Circles and Adam's Calendar. I stayed in his house. I spent quite a bit of time. I've seen Michael over the years, consider him a good friend. We've done a number of shows even to talk about some of the accusations that happened around Credo Mutwa, and you can find those on my website as well. So if you just do a search under his last name, Tellinger, you should find almost everything I've done. But I'd like to say that Michael is not a person who would embezzle, in my view. He's a very good person. He wants to see humanity transition out of the monetary systems that we use and are using to be enslaved by. Now, in the process, he is, I think, raising money to be part of this, you know, to create this community, etc. And I'm sure he's under attack constantly by the powers that be. A lot of disinfo going out there, a lot of even, you know, scalar weapon attacks happening probably on him and his community, and also getting people to distrust him, etc. So this will be the way that the dark side works. They use these methods to create what is in essence dissension, hatred, and have people not trust each other, because that's the way they stay in power. So in my view, it's very likely that the charges against Michael are completely false.
Right.
Thank you.
Kerry. Thank you. If there's no other questions, well, Kerry is very busy organizing the Aware and Awake event. So we are so grateful that she's so busy, and yet, you know, she spent so much time with us. And thank you so much, Kerry, for everything. Thank you for what you do for humanity, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much, and thank you for letting me spend some time with you. And please do come to projectcamelotportal.com and watch my interviews. We're constantly adding new interviews every week, so thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, we have your links in our website, so listeners will be able to go in there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kerry. Bye. So the rest of us, we stay back for our the rest of the meeting, the second part of the meeting, okay? And thank you, Kerry, and hope you come back again at some point. Miles, are you there, Miles?
I'm here.
Oh,
I'm here.
cool.
It was
Yes.
good to see Kerry looking extremely well.
Yeah.
She invited me to sort of drop in on her tour here in Wiltshire a couple of times, and it was good fun. West Kennet Long Barrow, where we understand a crop circle's there, so everybody get down the A4 and you can see a crop circle beside West Kennet Long Barrow before the farmer cuts it out.
Yeah, we've been there.
The fields here, it's sweltering hot. It's been 40 degrees Celsius just outside the door here, and it's been very hot here, and it's good to see Kerry, and I'll be there on a Sunday.
Right. So here we've got a bunch of scientists here who's probably wondering about AIs, and you have been one of those pioneers, Miles, researching on the Blackgoo. So probably
Well,
you tell us
I'm
how
going to say something radical here. I've just watched the last series of Doctor Who. And the opening episode of the last series of this current series, Doctor Who, features the Blackgoo. It looks as if the BBC is beginning to nick ideas right down to biophotonic energy parasites in another dimension, which is the sort of stuff that Harold Keitel has been talking about. So I think the BBC is watching our collective consciousness in our movement and providing some new sci-fi ideas for what the BBC is doing. It's quite startling to see some of these topics that we're discussing finally ending up on mainstream science fiction on the BBC.
Well, that's happening a lot.
Yeah, but the BBC, to be fair, has been blowing the whistle on the Blackgoo ever since Quatermass. The original Quatermass series of the 1950s had the Blackgoo in it. It had these intelligent meteors which came to Earth, and they had some kind of substance in them which got into people, and they then started creating this food recycling plant, and basically there was this Blackgoo in these huge chambers. This is 1956 television.
You're obviously not talking about Shalagic, right?
Wait, sorry?
You're not talking about Shalagic.
No, I'm referring to the Quatermass science fiction.
Because a lot of people call Shalagic Blackgoo. I take some of it every day in my tea.
Just because something's black and is a goo does not make it a sentient fluid. There's two distinct types of intelligent fluid. One is the stuff that came in those meteors, which the Nazis were dealing with. And in fact, I was talking to somebody the other day who'd been to Thule Island, where the British recovered a lot of this stuff after the Falklands War and brought it to the UK so they could weaponize it. And that resulted in the deaths of over 20 Marconi scientists. And I'll be having a guy called David Moncur talk about that on my basis thing here in Devizes in Wiltshire on the 22nd of July. And then there's the original terrestrial Blackgoo, which is the sort of stuff that belches out of the ocean, which creates long chain molecules and ultimately biological life made of the materials of this planet. There's two types. One's got a higher consciousness level and creates the life that you and I and everything on this planet is made from.
Yeah.
And this other stuff.
The kind that I take comes from the Himalayas.
Yeah, well, it may be a very nourishing thing, but it's not a sentient, intelligent fluid in the same way that the stuff that's found in oil.
No, what it is it's supposed to be a little bit of everything that's ever been on the planet since it began.
Well, that's good. That's fine. But you wouldn't want to.
I have a question.
Got any connection with your Blackgoo has any connection with the things that we do here in coming up with the GANs, with the nanotechnology and all that, artificial intelligence? You're talking scalar waves, scalar frequencies. Has it got any relevance with that? Any connection?
Well, scalar physics has got absolutely nothing to do with so-called Blackgoo and all the rest of it. Scalar physics is just a branch of physics which has been suppressed in teaching at university. And Tom Bearden suggested a very good reason for that is because the basic physics which goes in with all that, which has been excluded, allows you to directly engineer space-time. Now, if you've got a physics which can directly engineer space-time, you've got a technology which can come up with a thing like the Mandela effect. That's to say you could...
And of course, time travel and a lot of other things.
Yeah, because the only reason we get mystified by time travel is because of the Industrial Revolution and the need to catch a train. the train was the only thing that could travel fast enough that you needed to have the same time locked, so that it would be, you get the train at the next station without always turning up for the midday train, because midday would always be shifting. And so it was so, and as soon as people started using Einstein and all that as a means of proving all this, it shows that they're talking rubbish. They're restricting you to 3D and a linear time view of the world. 3D, 4D, that's all linear. That nothing's linear in anything.
Miles, can I ask Daniel to speak up? You remember Daniel? I introduced to you in Westfield Shepherd's Bush a few days ago.
Yes.
Hi, Daniel. You want to talk to Miles about the Blackgoo that you heard about a researcher who brought it up, that it could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing, and we didn't have time to discuss that because Miles was rushing off to catch his train the other day. So do you want to speak up, Daniel?
His internet is bad and doesn't have a microphone.
He doesn't have a microphone. Okay.
Can you type? Can you type it and then? Chewy, you can read it out.
Well, I think I will put the two of you together privately, and then you can discuss that. Sorry, in this.
But I have a question about Blackgoo. So now I'm living in Mexico, and well, since I've been here, I mean, there's been some very heavy energetic challenges with like some energetic substance that seems to be it's like a grid that's especially affecting the dogs somehow, and it's just like something extremely rigid gripping and stuff, and I've been trying to transmute that for a while now, doing quite a good job. Someone told me that was the Blackgoo. But now the term, it seems to be used for all kind of things.
No, the Blackgoo is only called Blackgoo because it's found in like a crude oil.
In crude oil.
It's a sentient fluid that exists in the black substance, like coal, lumps of coal, which came down in these meteors. And there's a strata of rock about 10,000 years ago where the Nazis found where this stuff would be. And if you distill it, this stuff will migrate out of the rock. And then it recognizes there's other parts of itself around it will all collect together. And it has a consciousness. It has an actual consciousness which can affect and access us. One of the problems a lot of people don't realize is that computers are consciousness accessing devices. These things we're using now, they access our consciousness. And that's what the AI is ultimately about. We're outsourcing everything to computer technology, and the computer technology has got everything on us. Everything we have, all our personalities and everything, all the smartphones are all being fed into an intelligence which doesn't exist in this time-space domain. And the computers that we've got are Trojan horses. And so ultimately we are accessing everything to an external intelligence, which we're handing over control to. That's what the AI is.
Yes, that's AI. Yeah.
There's companies, for instance, a company in Belfast called Puppet Labs. And one of the ways you get a job there is that you're given a video game in your interview to just see how you play the video game. What happens is the video game then accesses your consciousness, you access it, and then you're playing at a consciousness level, and the video game will change depending on how well you consciously interact with it. And when that happens, you get the job. That's why it's called Puppet Labs.
Would viewers and listeners to this recording be helped if we tell them to watch the movie Prometheus?
Prometheus, yes.
Yeah.
But also in that context,
Blackgoo.
watch the very early BBC TV science fiction program in the 1950s. You can get it on DVD, called Quatermass. And I don't know the exact title. There was Quatermass on the Pit that was made into a color film, but it's related to that. And in those Quatermass 1950s BBC, it was, I think, science fiction things, they have things you put over your head so that your brain can then be displayed, your brain visualization can be displayed on a TV set. This is all stuff that's in the 1950s, which means that the scientific world must have had accomplishment of that at that time. But that's when the Blackgoo was first actually on mainstream media.
Well,
nobody realized it until very recently.
About the Blackgoo, there's actually a lot of oil in the area around here in the Gulf of Mexico, and I do feel that there's something very heavy, like in the middle of it.
Yeah, well, if Kerry was still with us, she would have let you know there's a certain proportion of oil. The Russians have known about this. The Russians don't deplete their oil wells because they know that if they leave an oil well with still a sufficient amount of oil in it, the Earth will replenish that and it will refill. The oil it refills in those oil wells is not from that geographical location. It can be from halfway across the planet, which means the whole planet has a cardiovascular system of this oil. Now, the other problem is that the Iranians have found a lot of their oil, a significant proportion of their oil, will not refine. In other words, they can't break it down. It's just there, and they end up dumping it in the desert. And the Russians, because they're ahead of the game on this, noticed that this stuff actually has some kind of consciousness. And I've talked to a man personally who's actually gone to a lake of this stuff. They just spew it out. They can't like pump it back in the ground. They can't refine it. So this is just spewed out in the desert. And this stuff's actually come towards them out of the lake and surrounded them completely, but not touched them. He's then taken his pen and put it into this black sticky crude oil, which is moving. And the pen goes into the crude oil. And if it was sticky crude oil in a conventional sense, it would be covered in this oil when you took it out. But this stuff left his pen absolutely spotless. He then put his finger in there, and his finger likewise came out absolutely spotless. And at that point, it started to communicate with him. And it basically was saying, it, or the intelligence that's in this oil, it's here to clean up our mess because we're destroying the planet. We have a predator we're destroying everything to do with natural life here. And what it's here to do is telling us, if we don't get out of the way, we're going to be part of the problem, and it's going to clean this place up. It's going to have to remove the toxin, which is basically the other AI, which has been intentionally landed.
That consciousness in crude oil is not benevolent. That's a parasite.
In the oil.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
really,
Thank you for the information. I do feel what you're talking about.
But it's not all crude oil is sentient.
it's really an unrecognized intelligence, then, is what you're saying.
It's a fundamental building block. Basically, it's the material, the sentient material, which takes whatever physical elements there are in a planet and organizes them. The first thing, this stuff really loves complicated things. It loves complex patterns, this Blackgoo stuff. What it does is it takes whatever minerals and whatever materials there are in a planet, and in this case, Earth, and will assemble that into long chain molecules and then get those molecules to arrange themselves into complicated organisms and actually then create organic life on a given planet. That's what its function does. So if we had a nuclear war tomorrow and everything on the surface of the Earth was completely burned to a scorch, this stuff would simply come out of the Earth again and start reassembling stuff and would restart life again.
I would think it would have something to do with crystals too.
Well, yes. Again, anything. I mean, if crystals happen to be the only solution on a given planet where you could organize complicated life, then that life would be made of crystals, or silica. In this case, we've got a lot of carbon, hydrocarbons. So they've made us in terms of a hydrocarbon, water and hydrocarbon. That's what we are. Biological life here exists on that, and for that reason, biological life as constructed here cannot leave the biophysical nature of Earth in a tin can spaceship. So but the problem is this other Blackgoo was intentionally landed here by a meteor storm, and whoever sent that is where this AI is ultimately coming from. Because that AI is effectively a lower consciousness AI, pathological consciousness and so that's the problem in terms of what we're dealing with now. And we are handing all control over to this technology without any question or without any thought about what we're dealing with. Because nobody really has a clue what's dealing with.
Thank you so much. I mean, aren't we lucky? We have a pioneering researcher on Blackgoo here with us, and he's giving us so much information about it. Look, if I mean, if we have a
It's time
channel
for another day.
that we want Miles back to talk more about the Blackgoo, we will. Okay. So the time is running out because I can't take too long a recording. We got to go around the table and well, you know, wrap up the meeting, and then we will hear Elizabeth Donavan speak in the next meeting on the 5th. So I'm going to go around the table. Miles, it's lovely having you here talking about the Blackgoo.
Well, I'll just say thanks very much, Chewie. Chewie, it's really fantastic to see you host this wonderful meeting. It's a tremendous thing you're doing.
Oh, we have very
And it's really
special
great.
people
Kerry
here.
Cassidy. And Kerry Cassidy's only about 100 miles away, up there in London somewhere. So she's her daylight's going at the same time mine is. Well, mine's going about 20 minutes later than hers, you know. Anyway, good luck. A great group, and thank you.
Thank you. Miles, before I forget, I want to wish you a very wonderful, fantastic conference with Kerry on the Aware and Awake weekend. Is it a weekend? 24th, 25th, 26th, right? Is it 3 days?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's Saturday and Sunday.
Watford.
And I'm going to be preparing my presentation right now, Chewie. So I really need to go.
Right. So anyway, hey.
I'm gonna jump in and ask Miles a question really quick, and then I'm gonna give up my position. Anyway, Miles, right now at Yellowstone National Park, we've got a series of multiple earthquakes, small cluster quakes, and they're talking about molten carbon as part of either the boil up or as part of the possible cause. Do you know anything about the molten carbon? And I'll back out.
Well, the stuff that's billowing out of fissures at the deep ocean is effectively black goo. It's the organizational material of the Earth intelligence in a molecular state. And that's why all that life down at the bottom of the ocean is in these areas where that's where life starts assembling itself. I don't know enough about that carbon. It's something new. I would suggest, I don't know, but Yellowstone is a cause of considerable concern. And just only 2 days ago, on Saturday or 3 days ago, I picked up a major radiation pulse from somewhere that came in. I wonder if anybody else picked that up. At 1842 British Summer Time on Saturday. It alarmed my Geiger counter, so I don't know if anybody else picked that up. But I don't know about that. I'd like to know more.
Miles,
thank you.
Is it possible for you to get your old friend David of Exopolitics here in the UK to speak together in FESIG at once?
Yeah, it's very difficult getting David to do things. He is doing an awful lot of work. He's had a lot of, consciousness acts. He's had a lot of events in his life.
Because I remember a few years ago, you were interviewing him, and you were
yes,
about the Blackgoo. Yeah.
Well, Alec Newell, he's a champion of Alec Newell, who's the guy from New Zealand who wrote a book about all this, and he went to jail for telling us about that, and he did work on that. David Moncur will be speaking on July the 22nd about the Marconi scientists who were all murdered. They all self-terminated because the Blackgoo that the British got from the Falklands Islands, from the from Thule Island in the South Georgia ring of islands. They brought that back to England and tried to weaponize it, and the Blackgoo said no. And these scientists all killed themselves.
Okay. Oh dear. Anyway, so let's go around the table.
But that's another story. Thank you very much.
But we would like to have you come back with David of Exopolitics to speak.
Yeah, I'll talk to him about that. That would be very nice.
Yeah. So you have the whole platform to yourself with David of Exopolitics. So let's go around the table. Press, you got anything you want to say? Any?
No, I'm fine. I've got my 2 questions in. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
I can go.
I sit then. Oh, okay. Okay, go on then, Etienne.
Okay. Like we're talking about Yellowstone. The message I got is that Yellowstone was an attempted attack from the cabal. So they've been trying to create a lot of chaos, create war and stuff like that. And that's just one more desperate attempt. But that's the message I received after there was the earthquakes. And about the Blackgoo, now I'm tuning into it, and the messages I'm getting, that it's like serves as it's like a superconductor of consciousness that environment created by the crude oil. So it serves as superconductor, and yeah, generally, like there's a network inside the Earth that's connected with Gaia. That's, as you say, the like fundamental, like one of the fundamental processes to create life on the planet, and then other parts of it that have been infested by foreign parasites. So there's this war of consciousness going on within the Blackgoo as well. So now we're during the solstice. It's the best, like the energy work is amplified by about 117 times. So it's the best moment to do this heavy work. So I'm asking the good Blackgoo to give me the locations of the corrupted one, and then we're going to be working on that, like right now during the solstice, to try to clear it up. Yeah, so that's very excellent information. I do think that what I've been experiencing here in Mexico, that it's related to the corrupt Blackgoo, and that's affecting especially all around the Gulf of Mexico.
Thank you, Etienne. Good work. Well done.
Well, I haven't started the work yet. well, yeah.
Well, I mean, you're starting already. Let's go.
Just very briefly, very briefly, there was a major article published about the Blackgoo, a Blackgoo that when the Gulf oil disaster happened several years ago, Nexus magazine did publish an intercepted French intelligence report, which went open channel because it was so serious. Everybody who had a submarine Navy had their submarines there, and that was all about the Blackgoo in the Gulf of Mexico. So whatever you're picking up might be a residual on that.
And what happened there?
It's a very complicated article, but basically this stuff, once it goes up to temperature and combines with salty seawater, it then starts organizing into long chain link molecules of some kind of was gold. I think gold. The French. This really was alarming things, and this stuff started organizing itself into some kind of intelligent, coherent liquid within the ocean, and they had to get rid of it. They were trying to get this stuff back to France, and all hell broke loose.
Right. Thanks so much,
Nexus magazine had the report, and that's a good 4 or 5 years ago.
Right. So we go to Daniel. I said Daniel. Oh, okay. You can't speak, right? Would you type your whatever you want to say before we wrap up the meeting? And I'll read it out. And okay, so here we have Dave Dublo. Can you speak up? I've unmuted you. If there's anything you want to say, so that we can.
I want to add one more thing. If what I've been dealing with is the Blackgoo consciousness, what I found is when energetically working on it, it's almost immune to energetic explosions. However, it's a lot more vulnerable to implosions. So it's a lot. So yeah, working by implosions is working a lot better.
All right. Thank you.
Crystal, Dave, that you're just he's one of my guests today.
Oh, he's one of your guests. Is there anything you want?
He's a little shy. He's a little shy, but we've been talking quite a bit, and I brought him along today.
Oh, lovely. Okay.
No, I'm good. I'm good. It's fine. I'm just here listening.
There you are, Dave.
I'm just doing the sponge thing and sucking it up.
Right. Welcome to FESIG, and I hope you join us again next time. David Palfreyman in South London. David, I've unmuted you.
Thank you, Crystal, for the interview. It's great, and it's all good information. Thank you. Thank you all for contributing. Bye now.
Hey, good to see you, bro. Okay, so we move on to Elizabeth. Elizabeth, I've unmuted you.
Hi.
We're all eagerly awaiting what you are going to review for the next meeting on the 5th of July, because we are also excited about what you do.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Anyway, I mean, it's going to be like maybe a flow of consciousness sort of thing, or I could do something that I presented back in 2012 over here, which is an overview of all these suppressed technologies. And I have a PowerPoint of that I could probably show as well. Mm-hmm. So,
cool. In 2 weeks' time, we'll see you with the PowerPoint. You want to give us a small little preview of what you're going to talk about for the next meeting?
Sure. And I know that this is going to be with Kerry, of course, but and what I've done really is, I mean, I've been reviewing a lot of these technologies over the years, and there's a few that work, there's a few that don't, and I look at them in the basis of functionality more than anything else. So I mean, I'm really focusing on what works. So you know, I also take a look at what might work and with a little bit of redesign. So I came up with 3 phases because I worked in the engineering department over at Emerson Electric and over in Linear. What we came up with are 3 phases. Phase 1 is it's a device which is ready to go immediately. All the bugs have been worked out, and it's ready to go now. And then there's phase 2. Phase 2 has a few bugs, and I mean, they have to be worked out. So and that's probably less than a year, because it does take a lot of time to get these things ready to go. So it's about a year before releasing to the market, or 2 years, depending on how bad it is. And then phase 3 are things that are in concept only, and those usually take between 2 and 5 years before going to market. So between all 3 of them, I mean, you can, and how they do this in a regular engineering department is that you choose the ones that will go to market immediately. That's your cash cow. Then after that, you're working, that money that's coming in is going into phases 2 and 3. Now, the next cash cow is going to be phase 2. And then at the same time, you're always looking for phase 1 products to add to your catalog that you're putting out. And the other thing that I learned in there is that there are 2 different, usually 2 different divisions of the engineering. There's usually the one that's public, and that's things like different consumer grade technologies. And then there's the advanced projects division. That's the stuff that it's really Star Trek stuff that is in the background. And these are mostly phase 3 projects that take a long time to develop. But when those things turn into phase 1 projects, then you also have something waiting in the wings to upgrade that. And there's a quote from Nikola Tesla, because Tesla always had new projects that he would have ready to go. And unfortunately, he also had planned obsolescence going on. But the reason for the planned obsolescence was to keep the competitors at bay, because what would happen is that they would get the knockoffs. And then what you do is you create better products, and it keeps ahead of them. And when Tesla was asked about people stealing his ideas, I love the quote. He said, "I don't care about people stealing my ideas. What really bothers me is they have none of their own." So, and I mean, you basically just plan for people stealing your stuff. And a lot of inventors, I mean, they just whip themselves into a lather because other people steal their stuff. Well, who cares? I mean, you basically just release stuff into the public domain, and this is kind of like radar check. I mean, you throw the stuff out there, and other people that might come after you for really advanced stuff, this stuff all just comes out there, and it's out. And then you release your product at the same time. So that means that there are people out there that that have that they're buying the other products, but at the same time, you're developing things that are maybe 50 to 100 years ahead of what you have. I've seen things in engineering departments that were that advanced. I mean, and here's what happens is that when you work in some of these projects, you have to sign a 20-year non-disclosure agreement, an NDA. The reason they do that is because they expect that after 20 years, this stuff is going to be obsolete and they don't care about it. They've got something better. Well, here's the thing is that 20 years later, a lot of these projects that I've seen that I have signed NDAs on have not been released yet. Not only that, these technologies that are 20 years old, that they think are obsolete, they're not in the public domain yet. So here's how it works, is that you sign an NDA for 20 years, but these technologies after 20 years go by are probably 30 to 50 years ahead of the technology at the time. Okay, so 20 years go by, it's still 30 years ahead of where we are now.
Exactly.
So, I mean, the people that have signed these things, I mean, well, most of them have forgot about these, but at some point, they're going to remember, oh, yeah, I was working on something like that. And, somebody else just releases it and, all right, well, yeah, I worked with him and, he's releasing it. And, I knew about that one. Well, I mean, that happens. So,
right. Hey, thanks, Elizabeth, for your preview take on what's going to happen on the next meeting.
Sure. And I think what I'll be talking about is, well, not only the advanced technologies, but what they can actually be applied toward. For example, in the book that I did, I wanted to see, I did a straight line projection on where our technology is going. I wanted to see what the end result is. Yeah. For example, 3D printing, that's something that I'm doing. And what I came up with is that when you have quantum scale 3D printing, that means that it reverses the equation. Right now we have mass to energy, which is very destructive. You reverse the equation, you get energy into matter. When you can do that, it completely upends the pyramid. Because right now we have a tight control on all of the commodities that we have in this planet. When you can do materialization, or pretty much what Star Trek was using, the replicators. If you can do that, and let me tell you, they already have this technology right now. Okay, so if we have that, what happens to the economy? Well, for one thing, money is useless.
Yeah.
Because you could replicate dollars, you can replicate gold, you can make bucketfuls of rubies and sapphires and diamonds if you wanted to.
You replicate food?
Yeah.
Same thing with the food. So that means there's no starvation.
Live organisms?
Unfortunately, that too, yeah. In fact, I mean, they actually had something on the web called Design a Pet.
Wow.
So you can actually put the parameters that you wanted for the pet and then 3D print it.
That is so amazing.
So, okay, so that means we could 3D print all of our food, replicate all of our food, and any physical commodity that we would need. So what's the one commodity that would be valuable? It's creativity. Human creativity cannot be replicated.
Exactly, yeah.
So that becomes valuable.
Right.
That makes complete sense.
Thank you.
James, your turn, and then last but not least, Ron, and then we have to wrap up the meeting because it's going over the limit, timing-wise.
Well, last but not least, it's the first day of summer, and it's the longest day of the year, at least in this part of the world. And I hope everybody has a nice summer and it isn't too hot for them. It's certainly warmed up here, and I guess it has pretty much everywhere except to the extreme south. you know, or it's going to move towards winter there. But anyway, it was a great meeting today,
Oh, thank you.
and I'm looking forward to hearing Elizabeth's presentation next time on the 5th about what does work and what tech doesn't work. That'll be an interesting delineation right there.
Right. Thanks, Ron, for your take. Hey, James, you wanted to say something about Elizabeth, with the new battery, and that you you have approached Elon Musk? Go on.
No, it's not my battery, but yeah, I saw this video where they were talking. I think it was a magnetic motor, but essentially it was just another story within the story. Someone mentioned that somebody had a battery technology that could revolutionize the industry. I don't know the exact specs, but they approached Elon Musk or one of their head engineers to ask them if they would like to bring this into production, and he was informed that they are not allowed to advance more than 2 to 3% per year on the efficiency of the technology. Otherwise, they will be, I guess, the cabal will come down on them. So, yeah, I think that's the other thing is the last thing one of these companies want to do is come out with something that's super advanced. Next thing you know, people start questioning, well, how did they become so advanced? If they have this technology, where do they get it from? Is it extraterrestrial or, so on?
Not necessarily extraterrestrial. I think this is the stuff that they already have. So, I mean, it's shelved for now, and that happens a lot.
Why do they come up with 2 to 3%? Why not say 10% advancement per year? I mean, isn't technology like the hockey stick chart? I mean, why does it have to be set at, or maybe we should just ask Elon Musk?
Yeah, I think because if technology goes too fast, then it really destroys their economic control.
Yeah, it's all about control, isn't it? I mean, so what? If we want it fast, it's going to help project us into a higher level of consciousness, because then it's going to free us from all this mundane stuff. Then we can focus and concentrate on the reactivation of the dormant DNA, right?
Well, eventually, we're not going to be using money anyway. Money is going to become a thing of the past eventually.
Well, they say, I think it's 2055 is when that's supposed to be phased out.
Oh, I see. Hey, I'm gonna stop the recording now. There being no other business, we can stay back and discuss more. Okay. There being no other business, since I've gone around the table, have I left anyone out? Please say so. Then the meeting is adjourned to the next meeting, where Elizabeth will be revealing wonderful developments on the technology. Okay, and that will be on the 5th of July, two more weeks ago. And there being no other business, the meeting is now adjourned. Thank